exciting up-and-coming guys.
I think it made the most sense to have me fight for the title.
He's a tremendous fighter, man.
Almost undeniable just based on a few performances inside the octagon.
Wait. You might be watching this montage asking, who is this? Well, it's no secret the UFC has not been kind to Aussie fans in recent times. When all hope seemed lost, one man has unexpectedly risen above the ashes. This isn't Steve Carell cosplaying in the MMA. This is in fact Steve Astro Boy Erceg, the Australian who will face Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 301 for the flyweight title. Let's take a look at how this relatively unknown Aussie went from a local jiu-jitsu instructor to challenging for the UFC's ultimate prize. Steven Vincenzo Erceg was born in Perth, Western Australia, into a family of Croatian and Italian heritage. Whilst attending Corpus Christi College in Perth, Erceg was fascinated with the WWE. Growing up idolising the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock and Shawn Michaels, it would be the WWE superstar Brock Lesnar's switch to the UFC which fascinated Erceg.
I don't know how anybody's going to beat this guy. He's 206, like cutting to 265. The other guy's like 240. There's no way he gets beat. And then sure enough, he gets to the fight and he starts mollywhopping this dude. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is so cool. And then the small guy grabs his leg and then twists on it. And then Brock Lesnar had to tap. And I was like, I don't know what just happened.
Frank Mir's unlikely victory resonated with Erceg, who was naturally much smaller than his peers. He described his younger self as having little man syndrome with a desire to always be the strongest person in the room. Wanting to replicate what Mir did, Erceg would join the Cobra martial arts gym at 14, where he and his father would start training. Martial arts training was not what he expected though. Training in a gi, Erceg really just wanted to spar and submit people. He would give up MMA just 6 months in, whilst his father continued to train. After some convincing from his dad, Erceg would return to MMA training at the Wilkes Martial Arts and Fitness Academy, which is where his martial arts career truly began. After learning that his training mate was signing up for a sparring day, Erceg pleaded with his father to participate, although he wasn't convinced.
I was like, well, if he's fighting, why can't I fight? And Dad goes, you're not fighting. I was like, why not? He goes, you're not a fighter. You go backwards the whole time. You're not a fighter. I'm like, Dad, I'm a fighter. I'm telling you, I want to do it. And he goes, all right, if you want to be a fighter, we'll go in the backyard, we'll put the gloves on, and we'll see if you can be a fighter. And so we sparred and punched on in the backyard, and he goes, all right, I guess you want to be a fighter, that's fine with me. So
sparring with your dad in the backyard, does it get any more Australian than that? After his initiation punch-on with his dad, Erceg would start to dominate the Australian MMA scene. A master of all trades, Erceg would win the state championship in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, MMA and Muay Thai. At just 16, he would represent the country at the Gama World Championships, winning a silver medal. Erceg was completely dedicated on one day becoming a UFC fighter, spending all of his time in the Wilkes MMA gym. If he wasn't training, the second degree black belt was teaching MMA techniques to kids at the gym. Outside of training, he was also a scholar, continuing his studies past high school, attending Curtin University in WA. Despite the best wishes from his mum to stop fighting and focus on university, Erceg would go pro at 21, debuting on the CDL Promotions card in Western Australia. He would start his MMA career with a submission victory before being handled in the second bout, losing by unanimous decision. This left Erceg at 1-1, and although not a great start, it's not uncommon for athletes to stumble early in their MMA careers. After about a year, he would return to the Hex Fight Series in Perth and get a unanimous decision victory, earning himself a call-up to the Eternal MMA promotion, Australia's premier MMA competition. It was here Erceg started to get serious. The 5'8", 57kg flyweight might not look particularly intimidating outside of the cage, but inside he was a monster. Floating between the flyweight and bantamweight classes, Erceg was finishing his opponents whatever way he pleased. He showcased his excellent ground game with 2 consecutive submission wins and some incredibly powerful hands.
You know, he's fought these big names. Oh, big hook. He's out. Yeah. He's out. What a win for Steve Erceg. Huge win.
That catapulted him into a title shot for the Eternal MMA Flyweight Championship. Against the UFC experienced Shannon Ross, Erceg would display those quick hands and supreme submission technique, winning the flyweight title and moving his win streak to 5. He would take on the country's best bantamweight in Corey Haddon, who gave Erceg his biggest challenge yet. In what was a fight of the year contender and an all-out war, Erceg showed grit to get the decision victory. Erceg had now cemented himself as Australia's best talent competing outside the UFC, and after a flyweight title defence looked destined to receive that coveted UFC contract. Erceg would receive the call from Dana White's Contender Series, the same series that featured bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley and fellow Aussie star Jack Della Maddalena. Scheduled to fight Clayton Carpenter in Season 6, Erceg knew a victory would get him a contract in the UFC. Riding a 7-fight win streak with 6 of those coming from stoppage, Astro Boy looked set to make the leap into the UFC before disaster struck. Due to visa issues, Erceg was unable to travel to the USA to make his international debut on the Contender Series. With the opportunity missed, Erceg remained active, returning to the cage at Eternal MMA 73, a bout wisely picked on the same weekend as the Makhachev vs Volkanovski UFC 284 card in Perth. With UFC executives in attendance, Erceg would quickly dismantle his opponent with a swift submission victory. He was greeted by UFC matchmakers Hunter Campbell and Mick Maynard post-fight with the news he would be officially signed to the UFC. Scheduled to fight Carpenter again in May of 2023, visa issues would force him to delay his debut. The bout was rebooked for July of 2023, only for it to be cancelled once again, this time due to Carpenter sustaining an injury in training camp. Despite this, Erceg remained resolute and let the UFC know any place, any time, he would be ready. Training relentlessly to remain in shape, the UFC would call him to fight as an injury replacement for UFC 289. In what was an incredible opportunity for Erceg, he was fast-tracked to the pay-per-view card and on just 8 days' notice made the trip to Vancouver to face the 10th-ranked David Dvorak. Many would shy away from such a short-notice fight against a top-ranked opponent on MMA's biggest stage, but after 2 years waiting in the wings, Erceg knew he was ready. Erceg was winning performance of the night, putting the entire flyweight division on notice. This was a surprise to some, but was just part of the plan for Astro Boy, who predicted this prior to the UFC debut, saying, "I can hang with the top 5 right now. I really believe 4 good fights, 4 finishes, and I'm in the title picture." Maybe hopeful initially, Erceg's win put him on track for this prediction. 4 months later, Erceg was scheduled to compete against another ranked flyweight, Matt Schnell, at UFC 295. Schnell would withdraw for personal reasons and was replaced by Alessandro Costa. Erceg would get a knockdown and controlled the entire fight to record his second consecutive unanimous decision victory. The Aussie looked sharp and was rescheduled to fight Matt Schnell at UFC Fight Night 238 in March of 2024. A win against the 9th-ranked Schnell would certainly move Erceg into the top 10. Not only would Erceg win, but he would do it in style, flooring Schnell with a clean right for the KO victory.
He's going to have this.
That'll do it, the walk-off KO! Astro Boy Steve Erceg!
This was a statement performance by Erceg, who would not only move up the rankings, but quietly became a candidate to contend for the title. Now sitting 10th in the division with an 11-fight win streak, the stars were aligning for Erceg. The other flyweight contenders had already lost to the champion Pantoja or were injured. Erceg was fresh off the dazzling knockout of Schnell, which won him yet another performance of the night bonus, and the only other eligible candidate, Muhammad Mokaev, just won a snorefest by decision. With the UFC eager to take UFC 301 to Brazil and Pantoja eager to defend his title in front of his home crowd, they needed to find someone, and that someone was Steve Erceg.
It turned out, I got the call. I was enjoying my time off. I was eating some KFC. I had to make the decision. Do I finish the KFC? Away and start thinking about my diet, but ultimately I had to finish the box and then start thinking about weight after that.
After just 3 UFC wins, Erceg was set to headline UFC 301, manifesting his quick rise to the top. Could Erceg replicate the heroics of Volkanovski, defeating a Brazilian great in their home country, or was he out of his depth? The MMA community memed the Aussie's inclusion relentlessly given his UFC inexperience, although he should not be underestimated. Only now entering into his physical prime at 28, Erceg has a decade of MMA experience and will provide Pantoja a different challenge. Astro Boy has an outstanding Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu base, with 6 of his victories coming by submission. He also possesses elite boxing with rare knockout power for the flyweight division, and will have the physical advantage against the champion. Pantoja's 6th consecutive title defense, with the Brazilian now 3 years into his title reign. Stranger things have happened though. We have seen the likes of Yuri Prohaska, Alex Pereira, and Anderson Silva all win titles incredibly early into their UFC careers. Could Steve Erceg do the same? Who knows? Either way, it's safe to say he will no longer be unknown come UFC 301. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like. If you want to see more UFC content, check out the videos on Alexander Volkanovski and Tai Tuivasa here on the screen. Thank you for watching.